All right, the lady says we're recording. There's only three types of people with three names: serial killers, presidents, and this guy.
Yeah.
Welcome, Ghost Cult Magazine welcomes you in, my brother. How have you been? It's been a minute.
It's been quite some time.
Yeah, man. How's everything? Generally speaking, how's everything going?
Everything's going good. Just working on music. Got my new live band rolling now. Finally, that was a nice COVID scare for me. Half my band quit, and I had to basically hire on all new. I'm like the only original. I mean, even though I was the original member, I just kind of went full circle back to where I was, and some of it was expected, some of it was not, and there are some challenges, but everything is here we are. So that means everything is worked out accordingly, and I'm fully, back in the realm of playing live music officially, which is great.
Yeah.
And then doing records, I did Mind Freeze, Flashback, and Beautiful Distraction on top of kind of redid a couple of my EPs. Triumph is the record, and I did this unplugged. So I mean, I've been plucking away. I haven't been wasting my time doing jack shit. That's for certain.
You are a hardworking dude. I've noted that for many years from afar as an admirer of just how much stuff you put out. Constantly grinding on merch, which we'll talk about in a bit. Always great quality on the music. And it is interesting. I was going to say it's probably the longest stretch of time, at least for Haunt, that you didn't really get to play out much at all.
None. Zero. Zip. It was it was weird because we came off a really good stretch in Europe in early March, late February, early March. We were on tour doing the Mind Free stuff, had a bunch of festival dates on there, and I thought everybody was kind of amped up to be doing Haunt, and the overall response in Europe was really great, only to come home, with the pandemic hit, and then everybody has new things that they want to do in their life, and the seas kind of parted. So I just started, I was like, the best thing I could probably do for myself to keep my mind off of this happening is to do some records. So that's what I did. I was like, I'm going to do records. I'm going to, put out there that nothing changes. Members come, members go with Haunt, and it's not going to really strip it of its character. That was super important to me to kind of put out there, because a lot of memberships and bands usually result in the band formulatively ending up sucking some way. And I wanted to show that no, that is not the case. I'm going to kick ass no matter what. So I had a lot to prove in that realm during this time. And I used my time accordingly. There is no doubt. I wrote a lot of music. I worked on myself. I worked on the inner workings of the band. So when my new live band came in, we were all on the same page. That way I don't have to rotate members without it being something that is obviously on both ends of the spectrum, not just one. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, it's my time to go. Understood. Unfortunately, when you're kind of I'm like a heavy metal singer-songwriter, not like a, guy like Iron and Wine or one of those indie bands where it's you could kind of shift through members and nobody would ever notice. But it was crazy, man. I had a fill-in guitar player on Beautiful Distraction because I wasn't quite yet. I was like, how am I going to do this 2 guitar thing without the second guy really being here? So I hired one of my friends that I thought was really great. And that worked out pretty well. But then I got to working on newer stuff just recently and realized nah, I'm not going to farm out any work anymore. I'm going to keep it all exclusive to what I'm doing. So it just keeps everything a little bit more easy. When we got to practicing Beautiful Distraction and all that stuff, my new guitar player is I was like, I am not going and learning that solo. I was like, I got enough on my fucking plate than to sit around and learning other people's shit. So he had to go back and learn some solos because I didn't know them. Obviously I didn't play them. So it was like, all right, I better just start right. I was like, don't farm him out, because when it comes time to teach a guy, I'm like, here you go, good luck, see you later. So that's kind of been the pandemic. And then just being a dad, you know, my son was born in July in 2019. So it's like we're a little bit pre-pandemic, but now it was like in full swing, and of me being like realistically being like kind of a stay-at-home dad in some sense, because I don't work at a location. My house is my office. My studio's in the back, which most people that follow Haunt would already know that, but those that don't follow Haunt, I have a recording studio in the back of my house, not in my house, it's attached. And so I get a lot of time to sit there and really experiment and create. And obviously with the internet, like you could really put out content left and right. And I think today's generations and how things are now, we want a lot of things to keep our minds occupied, and people look to the internet for a source of entertainment. And therefore I think I hate to say that the guy from Spotify was right, because I don't like people that make like $2.14 billion, while the highest paid artist that was on there was paid like 5 million. I'm like, that just seems off. I'm like, but if she yanked all the shit out, or those top artists, if they just started yanking it, that would ruin their platform. They literally have nothing. So I'm like, you know, maybe but anyway, Daniel Ek did state that we're no longer in the times where you could put out an album 2 to 3 years and really stay relevant. You kind of have to constantly be like showing people like, hey, here's a single. Do kind of what rappers do, but I don't want to do that. I'm more of like, well, I could put together 8 songs in the matter of a couple months. So, you know, if I just do a couple records, like 16 songs a year, maybe 12, it's not going to kill anybody. It's not really overkill. That's why I keep my albums really short. 8 songs maximum. I think a couple I did 9, and that was just because I don't know why I did that, but they're generally 8. And it's just to kind of like, you know, be like, well, you can put something else out later in the year to try to keep people's focus on what you're doing, and not like, you know, I don't know. Some people will say, oh, it's so much, but I'm like, it's not really. I mean, I'm like, there's motherfuckers that have put out like 14 song records, and here we are 3 years later, and I still haven't heard all the songs. You know what I mean? So you can really, you know, it's sometimes, you know, they say like, you know, you're not reinventing the wheel or whatever. And it's like, you know, like you sometimes have to kind of think about like what the standards are now as far as like people's interests and how they want to be entertained. It's definitely shifted over the last decade a lot.
No doubt. And so much to unpack in that great answer. I'm glad you brought up Spotify, because even though you didn't put out the Unplugged records we're going to talk about in a second for Bandcamp Friday, I feel like you are the heavy metal Bandcamp band. You really help Bandcamp get in the consciousness. Heavy metal Bandcamp Gift Club, if people know what that hashtag is on Twitter, that crew of people. And you really were one of the bands that people.
I was one of the first. I was one of the first ever. Yeah. I did the Luminous Eyes thing in 2017, and I literally, because I was on Rise Above Records previously with my band Beastmaker, and I wasn't really vibing like being like on an indie label that much. There's a lot of take, very little give, and I understand it because they're taking big risks. And then I was like, well, this is the time of the internet. Like, people can access your stuff very easily, and most people are going to listen to no matter if they're record collectors or not, or whatever they are, they are definitely going to listen to music on their phone, period. Everybody, everyone. There is not one person that doesn't, even if you have a record collection. You got to get in your car. So I was like, I'm going to start this project called Haunt, and I am not going to stray from, this is my main place. If you want a Haunt record, you want a Haunt shirt, this is where you have to go. You can't go anywhere else. And when I signed with Shadow Kingdom, that was the clear line statement. I was like, I keep everything on Bandcamp. Bandcamp is mine. You don't own any of it at all. And it's exclusive. Like, I could do whatever I want on here. You can't tell me what to do ever. And that was big. And they allowed me a lot of freedom, and I'm thankful for that because Tim was really great. A lot of record labels won't even they won't allow that. They sell the record through your Bandcamp.
Yeah, they'll let you have the record that's yours that you made, right? Unbelievable.
So that's kind of like how Bandcamp. That's really, and again, I turned it on to so many bands because I keep telling them I'm like until Bandcamp really started. I started doing stuff on Bandcamp. I had to have a job. As soon as I like really focused on Bandcamp and really focused on that end of, instead of fishing it out, farming it out other places, like, there's merch companies that ship your shirts, there's all that. There's a big financial investment into actually creating your own store and having your own place of stuff. You have to have a computer, you have to have a thermal printer, you have to have a lot of stuff. But I highly suggest signing to a label now, unless you're trying to get some PR or marketing or clout, or you need a stepping stone. That's really the only reason now, because I believe in 10 years, there's like labels are going to be really not that relevant as far as marketing goes, because it's going to be all about how many TikTok followers you have, Instagram followers, and social media followers and YouTube followers, because that's where people are like congregating in massive space. Like I can't even say that I really pick up physical magazines anymore, because the only ones that even interest me anymore are like skate magazines, like Thrasher. Like other magazines don't really nothing against them. It's just there's a lot of coverage of a lot of stuff that I'm really not into, and I don't care. So it would have to be a magazine really specified to what I already like, and the internet kind of gives you that filter to where you can get direct information from the band that you like. You get news from the source per se. Not saying that you don't need magazines. Magazines do great things. They do great editorial pieces. There's great journalists. There's a lot of things to physical media that still have relevance in the modern era of being able to connect directly.
Fair enough. I was going to say, just like that resonates deeply with me, because Ghost Cult started as a zine in Europe before I took it over here in America. Yeah. And when we started, we were very exclusively avant-garde, underground, indie, and doom metal. And then I came in, and I have a very different taste: heavy metal, thrash, death metal, progressive rock, and metal weirdness. And so I brought that in. But the reality is, to run a website exclusively, what we found out is we had to cover like the 5-figure donkey punches so I can give my attention to Haunt and Midnight and bands like that I love. So that's kind of where my head was at. I get you totally. And I think we are becoming, at one hand, there's like sort of this streaming of music, and the availability of music has made us all kind of generalist in taste. Not you or me personally, but the average fan will sample a little bit of everything, like a buffet, which is the good thing about Spotify. If I have to say there's a good thing about Spotify, and I am a Spotify user, but I much love and prefer Bandcamp and spend my money on Bandcamp. I was actually at a show this weekend, and the opening artist came and played with a broken ankle. She played solo piano and sang, did not have her merch with her because broken ankle. And the headline band, Kowloon Wall City from San Francisco, they were like, oh, please go to her Bandcamp right now. He pulled out his phone. He's like, this is her Bandcamp. Everybody go buy her record right now. And I pulled out my phone and bought that record. And there's no better feeling of supporting an artist you care about. And,
know that went into her pocket, most likely.
Right. Most of it. Yeah. As much of it as can be. Bandcamp, at least they're as fair as possible, I feel. Especially, like the Bandcamp Friday is not going to be forever, and it can't be your only strategy. I once interviewed a very famous shreddy guitar player guy who has his own gear company. And he was like, with the pandemic and NAMM going out for a year, if you couldn't survive without NAMM, you shouldn't be in business. And I feel like that is also the same thing about you. If you can't make your own merch, design your own stuff, come out with a fresh logo, make good, high quality albums, come up with the funky, fresh vinyl all the time, cassettes, posters, everything. If you can't just grind on that all the time and have your marketing game be top notch, this isn't the job for you. This isn't the life for you. Making music's not enough. I was in plenty of unsuccessful bands with super talented guys who didn't want to do the other work. I always wanted to do the other work. And I'm in marketing, so when I'm not doing Ghost Cult, so I super respect the marketing game.
Yeah, there's a lot more to it than just playing music, and I say it's sink or swim. You have you either have to put in a lot of time and a lot of establishing of yourself, or you got to be really sociable. And some bands can't. I don't know why, and I'm not going to point fingers at anybody, but there's a lot of bands that don't have sociable people in it that, you know, can keep it really together and show the fans like, oh, this guy's great. But the people I found, like, one thing that I definitely have noticed is that ever since I started a fan club with a guy that was really looking to he wanted to build me a fan club page, but it was like, he's like, I'll build your page, but you have to promise to come over here and be like present on here. And he's like, I'll put it together, moderate it, and do this, and that. It ends up that's the Facebook algorithm put to rest, because once you start a group page, they don't filter anymore. Most of the people that everybody that's on there can see, and now we have this like community of people. I have some seriously diehard fans. It's unbelievable, and all because of social media. And even though I could say I don't really like social media as far as like my own personal news feed or whatever, but in the haunt group, I feel like that's like, there's so much different shit there, like fans talking about what came out that day. They're pumped about, oh, here's my record day. I got a bunch of shit they're sharing, you know. It's like, I'm like, this is more like, I was like, I feel like we're almost in the tape trading days, but on the internet era, and nobody's moderating it except for me and Martin, who's the other guy that, you know what I mean? There's nobody going, nope, you're not going to see this. Because, I mean, realistically, think about it now. Like, I got thousands of followers on my Facebook page, on the haunt page, and say I post a flyer and it'll get like 83 likes. I post some other shit like when I got COVID and I got like thousands. I'm like, that's an interesting big reality of where it's like, you always got to change your dynamic. You always got to be focused on what is going to work for your band.
True. And I often say the two things that I love to say. One, your earlier point, it's the music business, not the music friendship. I'm deeply sorry to everybody who doesn't agree, but it just is. And then the second thing is, don't rely on I work in marketing and social media as an expert, but realistically, don't put all your eggs in the social media basket either, because it will disappear or change. This is what happened with Facebook. They radically changed. Organic reach is nothing now, almost 1% or less. And a lot of people were like, oh, if I just make a post, everybody sees it and I do well and I make money. And that's gone now. Yeah. And Instagram, by the way, has the same algorithm as Facebook, even though I just like Instagram better.
Oh, yeah. I think Instagram does there's a little bit less to it. But not, I think Facebook has gotten severe to where they want you to boost your post and pay them,
which is useless, by the way. Boost post. Everybody out here, here's some free advice.
Look, if anybody that's ever boosted a post could find out that all their new listeners are from India.
Just in general, just not relevant. And actually, Facebook's going to take away even more of that stuff in January when they change the targeting again to make it less general. So, like, it's just a shit show. Maybe someday it'll come back. I don't want to lose the opportunity to talk about this wonderful record. Yeah. I've been waiting for this, for an unplugged record, man. I always felt like, you know, you're so badass at writing and these songs and guitar genius shit that I've been waiting for this. You know, obviously the true test is to be able to play it clean and not hide behind a wall of distortion. Nothing wrong with some distortion, though. But I love the unplugged. Obviously, Volume 1 indicates there will be a Volume 2, perhaps. But yeah,
I want to keep that open.
Yes,
I want to keep it open.
I like it. And so how'd you choose these songs? Obviously, my favorite record is Icarus. I have the big yellow shirt in my closet thanks to you. And but yeah, really nice choices on the tracks. How'd you choose that? Because tough to choose.
I basically, like, it really was just happened really randomly, because I just started like going, all right, which one? You know, I'd start jamming one and see if it was flowing at all. And there's some that I've been playing on acoustic guitar for a while, like on the stage, which is on Mind Freeze. There's a lot of Mind Freeze stuff on this one, but I didn't do much off of Burst into Flame. I only did Reflectors. for now. I'll probably tackle some other stuff later. I'm sure people want to hear. It's bizarre. I just started picking songs at random, and ones that had multiple vocal layers on some of them, where I could do the harmony parts and they really stand out. And the real test was honestly, none of this would have happened if my dad hadn't gifted me his hand-me-down acoustic. Because my acoustic guitar is this little mini thing that I just play in the living room for fun to write songs on. It sounded terrible. I did the first little track with it, and I was like, man, this guitar doesn't sound like good. And as soon as he gave me the hand-me-down, I put some new strings on it, cleaned it up, tuned it up, and it was just like boom, boom, boom. Next thing I knew, I had an album within like a day.
Wow, Church Senior coming through. Nice work.
Church Senior came through. He did. He's big time. And I bought a few things. I had to buy some of the percussive stuff, the cabasa, the tambourine. Had to be bought. Didn't have any of that here.
Egg shaker. I think there's an egg shaker in there.
Oh yeah, shaker for days. I mean, it was really meant to, like, my idea was like, it's like, there's no electricity anymore. What do we do for a show? How do we make it like cool, interesting? And I was like, shaker, you just throw it out in the crowd, shake it. You know, it might be bad, it might be good, but I kind of had that thing in mind where it's like, okay, you can make your percussion much bigger and have a bunch of instruments that like literally children could play. You know, like you go into an elementary school, you could give a kid a cabasa and he could learn how to use that thing relatively fast. And there's not a lot of technical ability. It's just rhythmical, you know, feel. And so that's kind of the format of it all. And I just picked shit, man. I didn't really think it through too terrible. Goddamn phone. Well, the bad thing about phone, every time something happens, it like disappears, like phone call, low battery, message. I'm like, oh my God, man. But yeah, I didn't really have any like seriously like thought out, like wrote it out. I just went until I had 8 songs, and I was like, these are going to be the 8 songs. And if one of them sucks, the hardest one was Have No Fear. And if it wasn't for my dad, it wouldn't have finished the song, because I was really not feeling it. He told me to cut out all the stuff in the beginning and just have acoustic guitar and myself, and that's it. And I was like, that's insane. And then I did like a little survey on the fan club. I'm like, what's your guys' favorite track? That one ended up being a lot of people. They're like, I like that one better than the original. This is my. I was like, what the fuck is that thing? I was over that song, Have No Fear. I was just like, that song put me through. So like, I was so stressed out about that one. I was like, this one ain't cutting it. And then it ended up being everybody's favorite. Like, isn't that just like the irony of being a musician in general? Is your favorite is not anybody else's. You don't know what is good. I'm basically just like, I'm just like a machine. I'm just like, here's a song, now pick which one's your favorite, because I don't even know anymore. I don't know when I've written a good one or a bad one, you know?
There's really no bad ones. I got to tell you, as a fan and a journalist, I haven't heard too many. There's really no clunkers, but I will say that I think if there's a thing on this record that was unexpectedly great, it is your vocals. Not at the risk that you're going to veer into kind of like extreme porno graffiti or Mr. Big department wants, to be with you and things like that. But your singing on here is really lovely in the pocket. You do a very nice job harmonizing. Not everybody can harmonize well with themselves. Some people are tone deaf, man. They can only sing alone, and then they go in the studio and it's like, what are you doing? But I will say something about the vocal part, which is is it definitely helps that I've been singing these songs for a long time. It really helped, because like sometimes when you're in the studio and you're working on it, you've only sang the song 3 times ever, maybe 4. You're really not like, for me, that's how I do it anyways. I'm like real fast paced. I'm like, all right, here we go. Do your best. And I try to do my best, but as time moves on, you find these little things, and obviously you have to sing a little bit differently over acoustic music. You have to soften it up and change some things that don't work over the electric music. You could scream a lot more with electric music. And this was a lot of production I had to do that I usually don't have to really go in
really balance out the dynamics, because the dynamics and vocals, it shifts so much. It's crazy because your voice never is the same volume all the time. So you got to compress, you limit, you go in, you automate. So there's so much to it. So the vocal part was actually the longest part of the production. It took me roughly the whole album took about 35 days to complete. And about a week of it was spent getting the vocals right. So that's a good chunk of time for me. I usually can knock it out after pre-production really fast. So yeah, it was good. It was a good evolution. It showed me a different side of myself that I didn't really discover before. And I'll definitely use more of those techniques in later albums of just smoothing out everything, making it like my dad. He's like, you need to be like ABBA. Everything is like glass. The vocals never go above. It's just like smooth glass. And when you do a lot of DIY shit and you record from home, it's constant evolution. It's like, that's kind of, sometimes I always think, I'm like, yeah, I could go spend a shitload of money, but I was like, that's not part of the journey. I'm like a journalist. These are my music or my musical journals. Like, if I had to wait a year to write 8 pages in my journal, like, I'm never going to get done. You know what I mean? That's the way I think about it. I'm like, shit, I got at least write like 90 pages in that thing to really say that I had a year of work, 362, there's a lot of days. And it's like, what'd you do with those days? Nothing. So, I mean, yeah, I'll definitely be I'm going to be taking a lot of what I learned and trying to put that into some more album format later on down the line. I'm sure it'll happen, but I've never really liked, people are always like, why don't you write a ballad? And like you said, like the Mr. Big stuff. And like, that's not really who I am.
Yeah.
And
sure.
That's the
I don't
challenge.
want people to worry.
Yeah. So it wasn't
worry.
It wasn't like, I never really was good at having the clean, then you get the heavy chorus. And that was kind of what the beauty of the Unplugged was. I didn't have to distort. And I think that's why I was able to do it, because it was just one idea just stretched across the board. It wasn't like, okay, now we're going to go in heavy. It was like, no, we come in here, we build it up with like some clapping, some loud, some more shaking, more vocals. And then the guitar does not distort and we go into like anything, which, not saying that stuff's bad, but it's definitely it's never been a strong suit for me. So it was nice to take another approach.
Killer, man. As we start to wind this down, I want to give you back your evening and let you get to your rehearsal. But of course, I have to ask, what's on the horizon? I imagine more new albums and EPs in 2022.
Yeah, you'll see. I have a new album done, but I mean, as I'm sure you already know, there's like the vinyl record industry is very interesting right now. There's massive waits. And so at this point in time, I have an album done. I'm waiting for the time to start doing all that stuff. It's called Windows of Your Heart. I could say that. And, it's good. I like it a lot. I'm excited about it. And I used some different lead guitar technique in it that nobody's heard in my music before, which was, it was a pivotal moment to where it was like, okay, now I don't have to do 2 guitar solos anymore. So that was kind of a big deal. And I've gotten some approval from quite a few of my friends on that. They're like, they're like, you're at the point now, just the solo is a solo. You figured it out. I was like, thank God. So, because, that was a big dynamic for us, having the 2, like I do a solo, John does a solo, then we go back in. That was the formula for basically since Icarus, we started doing that more. And then Mind Freeze, it's like every song almost was that. So, it was like, all right, now I got to take it back, because I was like, that worked really well, but now I got to try something different. April, we have a tour, Allied Forces tour with Screamer from Sweden, Traveler from Canada, great bands, and Saber from LA, which I helped produce, and I drummed on their album, actually, was their studio drummer. We're hitting a bunch of dates going down to Texas. Summer, I have a tour planned. I can't really spill too much on it, but it'll be a full US tour in late August. So everybody on the East Coast will finally get a chance to see me again. I haven't been out East since 2018. Yep. So it's been a very, very long time. It's overdue. And also it'll be my first time on the East Coast of Canada as well. So that's really all that's really on the horizon for 2022. Obviously, the new record will be out by then, and maybe another unplugged. It's really hard to say depending on how I feel, because it was weird. I'll say during the pandemic, it was weird putting out so much new music and not really playing it. So now when I'm out playing, I'm like, this set is fucking weird, because I'm like, I never played these songs. It's like, I was like, every night's like a CD release show. You know, it's like, these are not like old songs yet. And it's really hard to sort through them. So I'm probably only going to do the one album for 2022. I have one that I'm actually, before I got, here, I was like changing a string, and I was like listening to, I have pre-production for a new record that I'm working on. I got so many songs. I'm just trying to, like, my idea now, stockpile them up, release them as it sees fit, and try to hit my 20 album goal before I'm 50. And if I could do that, I'll die very happy, man. And, you know, but I will say this, if there's anybody that's trying to see Haunt live on the East Coast, and it's a drive, I'll tell you now, you're going to need to go to whatever show you see that is posted out East, because I will not be traveling out East very much at all. There's a lot of bands that are on the grind, on the tour grind. That's not going to be me. I'm Rex's dad, and he is number one, and I only want to tour twice a year. I don't want to go anywhere. I don't really feel the need for that. So it's like, I not saying that the right opportunity is the right opportunity, but as far as like my own personal plans, that's the agenda, just because it just seems like the right move for me. I don't want to miss it. When I was gone, when he was little, I felt guilty, and I'm only going to feel more guilt being gone. And people nowadays, if you really want to contact me, like I said, I'm basically readily available on the fan club page. Like, you could literally talk to me. I do live feeds on there, share all kinds of stuff, limited exclusive merchandise. That's like just one-off runs that I have my screen printer do. I'll do like a different color shirt, or I'll do some back patches in it, and they're just so short run. But yeah, that's really it. I think Beastmaker might be coming back. We talked about doing some shows and kind of got it going, but I am so I just get so involved in Haunt sometimes that I forget that Beastmaker even existed.
It's been a minute.
It's been a lot. We haven't played live since 2017 or early 2018. So it has been a long time. And I always think about it. I'm like, it wouldn't be bad to go play here, like LA, San Francisco, call it a day. Maybe, what we really wanted, me and Andy specifically, John won't be involved. My old bass player at Haunt, Will Taylor, we kept in good standing, but he said he would really be interested in something not really as demanding. Haunt was too demanding for him in his life at the time. He's young. He's trying to figure out his path. So he left the band. And I understand that. I was once young trying to figure out my life. And when you got a dude like me that's serious, I'm like full force, like, okay, I'm going. We're going to, you might have to leave for a month and a half. And that doesn't really go well with a lot of people's schedules when it's not a true career. Music has turned very hobbyist. So, it's like one of those things where it's like, if you're not ready to sacrifice your time and, and basically eat cheese and pretzels every day, this isn't the life for you. You know what I mean? But anyway, so that I am going to do a Beastmaker box set because I'm basically out of all Beastmaker merchandise, and I've really been lacking in that area. And Haunt, it has some, you know, beautiful distractions out now finally on vinyl. So I spent the last 3 weeks shipping all that. That was fun. Oh my God. I was like, I thought I was never going to get done. I was every morning I wake up like, all right, here we go. Shipping time, you know, packing up everybody's boxes. And like the light at the end of the tunnel is just always so far away. And then when you get there, you're like, now what? You know what I mean? That was my mind. I was like, all right, now I'm going to just start working on this next record, you know, and get moving. But that's really it, man. I mean, the Allied Forces tour for the West Coast is going to be really great. I think having some international bands back in the United States for what is the first tour that I know of international bands coming. It excites me because it kind of makes me realize like, okay, well, you know, we're getting back slowly. You know, it's like people are, you know, we'll start, you know, I think live shows were heavily missed. I really do. I think, and I think it's such an important part of our culture as human beings to have music that's played live in a group setting of your friends. It just brings a lot of happiness that was missed. So I didn't even realize I missed it until I played a show. I got so comfortable, you know, I was so comfortable sitting on my ass shipping records and t-shirts to where it was just like, am I even going to miss this? And then you go do it and you're like, oh, wow, that was the energy that I haven't had. You know what I mean? Like there's just so much more adrenaline going through your veins, and, you know, seeing people that you don't see consistently is great.
Yeah, it was so much fun. Awesome, man. So much fun. Yeah. So much fun getting back to life and getting back to our shows and things.
Yeah.
You know, it was a big deal for me. Rex's dad, heavy metal genius and overall swell guy, Trevor William Church. It is always a pleasure, man. And I look forward to seeing you on stage again very soon in 2022.
Absolutely, brother. I appreciate the time. It's really good seeing your face again, and take care. And thank you for everybody for listening and tuning in. Ghost Cult rules. I mean, you guys have been big supporters, so I always got to give you guys some credit where credit's due. And I see it all. So I appreciate it.
Right back at you, brother. Much love.